The lawsuit claims that over a 4-day period in 2024, at least 250,000 streams of his song No Face, whoa, this is after the battle, originated in Turkey, but were falsely geomapped through the coordinated use of VPNs to the United Kingdom in an attempt to obscure their origins. The lawsuit further claims that the number of streams of Drake's music attributable to individual accounts is staggering and irregular, with a massive amount of accounts listening to Drake's music doing so 23 hours a day. Wow. So that means they tracked some of these accounts and they're like, hold on. How is somebody listening to songs 23 hours a day?
Drake.
All right. The bots are coming out again. I think it's other platforms than just Spotify, but right now it seems like Spotify is being sued. But when we talk about the bots, I need y'all to understand that it's not just bots on Spotify. Because with Drake's lawsuit against UMG, we kept hearing about Spotify. I think it's bots on Apple Music, YouTube Music. I think it's bots on Amazon Music. They look anywhere where it's a streaming platform or a DSP. I think it's bots. But right now, this person who is actually Snoop Dogg's cousin is suing Spotify because Drake has been getting billions of fake streams. All right. So we had Drake suing UMG because Kendrick was getting bots or botted. And this is Snoop Dogg's cousin. So obviously this person is from California and the lawsuit was filed in California. So, you know, the West Coast and East Coast beef continues. So we got the article here and it says a new class action lawsuit against Spotify alleges the company has turned a blind eye to mass-scale fraudulent streaming on its platform, and that one musician in particular has been the beneficiary of billions of fake streams. Drake. All right. Also, I need all of y'all conspiracy people in the comments. Okay, I don't want to just hear from Kendrick fans. I want to hear from the Drake people too. You know, is Kendrick behind this? Is it somebody in Kendrick's camp? They like, hold on. He want to talk about not like us getting botted. What about all the bots he's been getting? Because I heard this lawsuit, they're saying Drake was getting billions of streams since 2022. I thought that was very interesting as well. But it said the suit was filed in California District Court on Sunday night with a rapper and cousin of Snoop Dogg, RBX, named as the lead plaintiff. While the most eye-popping allegations in the suit relate to Drake's streaming numbers, there are no specific accusations of wrongdoing against the Nokia rapper. I hate how they do that, the Nokia rapper. Drake is known for more than Nokia, but I guess they like, yeah, since the battle, the only hit he had was Nokia. He's hanging on to Nokia for dear life. Only Spotify is named as a defendant every month under Spotify's watchful eye. And remember, a couple of months ago, they were saying that Spotify was cleaning up and they was getting rid of the bots. Under Spotify's watchful eye, billions of fraudulent streams are generated from fake, illegitimate, and/or illegal methods. The record companies, like bots, the lawsuit states. Such mass-scale streaming fraud, it continues, causes massive financial harm to legitimate artists, songwriters, producers, and other rights holders. Also, fake views is an issue too. So in music, we talking about fake streams. And look, if you got fake streams and you stream all of this music, you can get a lot of deals, a record deal, an ad deal, and stuff like that. It's going on with streamers too. So some of these streamers, they fake their views so they can get more deals outside of streaming, right? Now, you know, you got people teaming up with clothing brands and Gatorade and all this other stuff. And everybody's just faking the clout so they can get ad deals, basically. That's what people are saying. So streaming royalties are paid out through stream share model, where subscription and ad dollars are put into a giant pool, and with the money divvied up based on each artist's share of the total streams. Most of that money already flows upstream to most successful artists and biggest rights holders. So I want to read that again. It says streaming royalties are paid out through stream share. So stream share could be something like AdSense on YouTube. How we get paid is through AdSense and Google Ads. And it says this is a model where the subscription and ad dollars are put into a giant pool, which is kind of like AdSense too. You know, you get all of this money from showing ads. I guess they got like a big pool or account, and it pays everybody's out. It pays everybody out. So with the money divvied up based on each artist's share of the total stream. So basically, you know, they paying you off how many streams you get on the platform. And they said most of the money already flows upstream to most successful and the biggest rights holders. And that rights holders, that means not just artists, that means people who own the masters. So, you know, it's very foggy if Drake owns his masters or if he owns a piece of it. Some people say he owns some of it. Some people say he doesn't own any of it. But, you know, think about how successful Drake has been. And if he doesn't own his masters, you know, he's been making, well, he got a master. If you don't own your masters, you got a master. Let's just keep it real. And I think that's why he always wants so much money from these record deals. He always wants $1 billion because he know I don't own the masters. In this type of shared pool model, fake streams hurt other artists whose shares aren't inflated. Spotify and representatives for Drake did not immediately respond to a request for a comment. Yeah, because this shit just broke today. I'm sure they knew before we found out, but I think with Drake getting his lawsuit thrown out, that I'm sure he's trying to refile, he's trying to resubmit that lawsuit. I think they're going to take some time and try to figure out how they can add whatever's going on with this RBX guy to their lawsuit. Drake calls UMG out, and now we have somebody calling him out for the same shit that he was calling out UMG. Okay? Let's go and continue. While the lawsuit suggests that use of bots is widespread on Spotify, the only example it cites pertains to Drake. Now that's very interesting too. So they basically saying, look, it's a lot of bots moving, but this lawsuit is only about Drake. So I guess the article is saying, okay, what about everybody else who's using bots? What about the Kendricks, the J. Coles? That's another thing too. You know, we keep talking about bots as it pertains to Drake and Kendrick, but it's another guy in that big three too. So I feel like if you feel like Kendrick and Drake get botted, then you got to add J. Cole to that. You might have to add Kanye to that. We might have to start having some uncomfortable conversations about your favorite artists. My favorite too. It claims voluminous information, which Spotify knows or should know, proves that a substantial, non-trivial percentage of Drake's approximately 37 billion streams were inauthentic and appeared to be the work of a sprawling network of bot accounts. And when you hear voluminous, that means it's a lot. I'm thinking it's a lot of quote unquote proof that they feel like proves Drake has been botting and he's a part of this network of bot accounts. Now, also, if you ask me, I think if it is some company that's botting all of these artists, it's being used by multiple record labels and multiple artists. I don't have any information about this because I'm sure it's just, if these bot farms and bot accounts and bot servers, people are protecting this with their life. But I'm sure you probably have one or two, maybe even three huge bot farms or companies that everybody is using. So we continue and it says this allegedly fraudulent activity took place between January 2022 and September 2025, according to the complainant, to the complaint. It claims an examination of Drake's streams revealed an abnormal VPN usage. Now, if y'all don't know what a VPN is, some of y'all probably use the VPN so y'all can watch Netflix out the country, like the UK Netflix or whatever. But that's when you can hide your IP address to make it seem like you're in another location. I think that's how you explain it. And so if you're botting, you want all of the bots to seem like they're coming from different locations. So you could be at the same computer or the same, let's say, bot farm, which is a bot farm is basically a big building full of computer tech where all of it is just managing all of these accounts and all of this hardware so it can make all of this shit seem like it's genuine. You know, sometimes people use this stuff for farming crypto and, you know, housing information. And so that's how I feel like a bot farm would look, but it might just be as easy as somebody on a laptop just making all of these fake IP address and accounts. So you get the VPN and you make it seem like your million streams is coming from all over the world, when in actuality it's coming from probably one computer or one location, if y'all get what I'm saying. So you just faking the location. Had obscured the location of the bot account streaming Drake's songs. For instance, the lawsuit claims that over a 4-day period in 2024, at least 250,000 streams of his song No Face, whoa, this is after the battle, originated in Turkey, but were falsely geomapped through the coordinated use of VPNs to the United Kingdom in an attempt to obscure their origins. Oh my God. So they was faking the VPN from the UK, saying it was from Turkey to try to hide the fact that it was coming from one location. Jesus. The lawsuit also alleges a large percentage of accounts streaming Drake's music were geographically concentrated around areas whose population could not support such a high volume of streams. No exact places or numbers were given, though the suit claimed that some streams reportedly originated in areas with 0 residential addresses. So that means they were saying that the streams could have came from Antarctica, and you look on the map and you like, hold on, bro. It ain't no cities in Antarctica. It's nothing but igloos and winter coats and people ice fishing. The lawsuit also cites significant and irregular upstick months for Drake's songs long after they had been released, as well as slower and less dramatic decay rates for Drake's music compared to his contemporaries. Contemporaries like who? Kendrick, J. Cole. Decay rates refers to a typical streaming pattern where plays of an album or song naturally dwindle in the weeks and months after release. So they're saying his stuff wasn't going down naturally. It seemed like it was either staying consistent or going up higher. So usually, you know, after like right now, we've seen a decay in some of Kendrick's music, you know, after all of the hype from the beef. They're saying with Drake, his decay was either a lot slower or probably have, you know, moments where it might get even higher or back to the height it was at when the song first released. The volume, that's what I should say. The volume of streams was probably going up and down, so he would have spikes. That's what I wanted to say. He was probably having up spikes in his music that felt unnatural to whoever was keeping track. But also whoever, because look, this RBX guy, I don't know his background. I don't know if he's a computer tech whiz, but if you ask me, I'm sure he had somebody look into this, a specialist, and then they got all the information, gave it to him, and he filed the lawsuit. So I'm assuming whoever was keeping track of this had to know what they were doing. And for this to fly and for them to have a chance, this has to be very detailed. And so I said all of that to say, I feel like with these numbers coming out, the person who put this together, I helped this person with this lawsuit, they either have a backdoor into Spotify's numbers, or they're just so technically sufficient that they know how to obtain these numbers. Because y'all got to remember that, yes, Spotify does tell you how many monthly viewers or monthly listens somebody gets, but I still feel like at the end of the day, they're surrounded or shrouded with as much secrecy as all of these other streaming platforms. Like, okay, this person got this many streams this month, but how much money is 20 million streams worth? They're not telling you all that. And they also not telling you where every stream came from, or they're not showing you a graph of, okay, this song was released at this point, and this is when they had this spike, and they got all of these streams when it first came out, and they dwindled down. They don't show you charts, anything like that. So whoever got this information, I feel like either had to be an insider, or they just know how to obtain this when the average person doesn't. And I feel like a lot of artists don't have access to this information either. The lawsuit further claims that the number of streams of Drake's music attributable to individual accounts is staggering and irregular, with a massive amount of accounts listening to Drake's music doing so 23 hours a day. Wow. So that means they tracked some of these accounts and they're like, hold on, how is somebody listening to songs 23 hours a day? They said less than 2% of these users, the lawsuit goes on to claim, account for roughly 15% of Drake's streams, and about 9% of Drake's streams are attributable to less than 1% of these users. So basically they're saying that a decent percentage of Drake's listeners are coming from these bot accounts where people supposedly are listening to music 24 or 23 hours a day. So it says, as a result, the complaint claims Drake's music accumulated far higher total streams compared to other highly streamed artists, even though those artists have far more users than Drake. Hold on. So, but see, who's the artist that we basing this off of? Because to me, you know, it would have to be Taylor Swift. It would have to be Ariana Grande, Bad Bunny, Kendrick Lamar, just everybody who you put in these top spots. I'm sure they're comparing this to Justin Bieber. And so they're saying that Drake has less users than these people, but he's getting more streams. Jesus. But like I said, you got to prove this too. The lawsuit does not state how the plaintiffs or their lawyers obtained this data. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, this part is very important. We got to figure out how the hell y'all got this data. Nor does it shed any light on how the analysis of Drake's streaming numbers was conducted. And that means basically, how did y'all gather this data? How did y'all put this together? And so it sounds good until we say, or until Drake comes back and he's like, all of this is fake. All of this is cap. Show me the data. Show me the diagrams. Show me the charts. And that's what you got to have. Because I feel like anybody can kind of just go in and say, I'm suing somebody for X, Y, and Z. But how much detail do you have to have before the lawsuit kind of like goes through? So we could just be at a point where this person filed this, but they haven't showed any proof. These allegedly fraudulent streams generated significant revenues for Drake and his company Frozen Moments at the expense of other artists. The lawsuit claims, but it also states that Spotify deliberately turns a blind eye to fraudulent streaming for its own benefit. And, you know, that could be the case, right? More streams, more money for them because they take a larger percentage than the artists get. While Spotify has taken steps in recent years to combat and tamp down streaming fraud, like I told y'all earlier, supposedly they've been getting rid of the bots. The lawsuit casts doubt on the efficacy of these measures and Spotify's own incentives to stop fraud. It suggests that Spotify is particularly vulnerable to bots on the platform's ad-supported free tier because myriad accounts can be generated without handing over a credit card. Right, so you can basically make a free account without putting a whole bunch of information in. By allegedly allowing bots to run rampant, Spotify can present high streams and user activity numbers to potential advertisers, the lawsuit alleges. And that's what, see, to me, this is the biggest part. Giving fake numbers to ad companies. That's what I told y'all in the beginning. That's what you gotta pay attention to. All of this inflated shit is about telling an ad company, hey, we get all of these numbers and you getting millions upon millions of dollars worth of ad revenue. For Spotify, more users and music streams means more advertising dollars so long as true origin of streams remains hidden. The lawsuit states Spotify also loses money in the form of royalty payouts whenever fraudulent streams occur. Artists across the streaming industry need accurate reporting of streams and effective fraud detection to ensure fair compensation. When streams are artificially inflated on a large scale, as my client's lawsuit alleges has happened with respect to streams of Drake's music, it affects the income of countless songwriters, performers, and producers. Also, keep in mind, this is what a lot of people were claiming Drake's lawsuit was about, protecting the artists from these fraudulent streams. And you know, whether or not you believe that, right? They said Drake was taking on the man. Mark Pifico, I hope I said his name right, one of the lawyers with Barron and Bud who filed the lawsuit on behalf of RBX, tells Rolling Stone. The lawsuit seeks to address these border issues, recoup losses for affected musicians, and make the streaming ecosystem as fair and transparent as possible for everyone involved. Like I said, in a nutshell, this is all about whether or not Spotify is allowing people to fake plays so they could get ad dollars and more money off the dollar when it comes to streaming and paying out artists. Because Spotify, they're getting paid all the money. If it is any wrongdoing going on, you could say that Spotify could be in cahoots with the bots, and just like the record companies can be in cahoots with the bots and Spotify, so the numbers can all be inflated and it works out for everybody. It works out for the labels, it works out for Spotify, and the artists get played. And also, if Spotify playlists is pushing big artists who have inflated numbers, aka fake numbers, bot numbers, and then when you have artists who have real streams, their music doesn't get pushed. So that top playlist is usually all people that you know of. But let's say, what if it's a guy bubbling up on TikTok or bubbling up, just online or whatever? When does their music get inserted in this algorithm to get pushed like the other guys who are faking the bots? Because if you don't have a lot of money or you not signed to a major label, obviously you don't have access to the bots like these bigger artists. And so, when a lawsuit is presented like this lawsuit, then it can look like how Drake, and look, I can't say this is necessarily Drake. This was a lot of people on the internet speaking on behalf of Drake. When they kept saying that, oh, this is for the artists and we trying to protect the new up and coming artists and make sure it's fair. But Drake's lawsuit wasn't presented like this. This seems like, okay, these are how we get in the fake numbers, and we want to stop this so that other artists can have fair practices when it comes to streaming platforms. Like this seems like, okay, the outcome of this could help up and coming artists. Whereas Drake's lawsuit felt like, okay, do he want a new record deal? Does he want revenge for Not Like Us? Is he trying to get his masters? And that's why I kept telling y'all, it felt so all over the place where this is like, no, we using Drake as an example of a big artist getting botted, and these practices need to stop. But once again, we need to figure out if this data is accurate and how this person or these people came up with these numbers. So y'all tell me what y'all think about this. Like the video and subscribe. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.